Evening, good morning, whichever time zone you guys are in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TooGeekyToCare podcast group on Twitch. This is the podcast group where we just talk about all things geeky, nerdy, and just don't give a golly gosh darn about and how it relates to our society. So, as usual, I am Tark201.
I am Bushido.
Oh.
I'm Bushido X Wolf.
I'm Gothing G1129.
I can't even mess stream.
And AJ is crashing.
Here we go.
What?
Are we gonna lose AJ?
That...
I think we might. I think he's gone.
Maybe? I don't know.
My camera just shut off.
Your camera just shut off?
His camera stopped existing.
Should we keep going? Should we? Yeah, let's.
Yeah,
the camera.
Let's go on.
The camera's still rolling. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for tuning back in. And tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about remakes and remasters. Let's all talk about that because let's be honest. We're now living in a world where everybody just wants to see something new, but the new thing is something of old and all that. So to start off, I just wanted to ask everybody, when somebody hears the word remake or remastered, what's the first thing that comes into usually everybody's mind and all that? It could be anything. Me, usually when I think of a remake, I just think of a film. That's it. I think yeah, so.
For me, that's kind of, for me, when I think of like a remake or a remaster, that's kind of open-ended, cause like I've seen it done with books, I've seen it done with albums like music before, it's done with movies, it's done with games. Games are one of the last things I actually really think about.
That is true.
I usually first.
There's lots of those.
First, it's usually movies, and then when it comes to remakes, remasters, or reimaginings. That's something else that I always appreciate. There's reimaginings, and then I think of albums, like people take old albums and remaster them, like old, I don't want to say Frank Sinatra's really old, but Frank Sinatra stuff, like they'll remaster that, or Elvis, stuff like that. Anything that was on vinyl, they'll remaster it, which is mostly just removing the pops, which is kind of sad. But
I want to cut you off and say that's also not true, but I will let you continue.
What was not true?
Yeah, you said old music. Like Biggie's 2 albums were remastered, so was All Eyes on Me. You know, these are all things that are on CD. So anything that's on CD, even like considered like one of those classic albums, they get remastered as well. Like I said, All Eyes on Me, what else was it? Ready to Die or Life After Death. They got remastered on iTunes.
There's reasons for that. At least I feel like there's specific reasons for that happening with albums that are of a certain age. And we could always go into that when we talk about music in a little bit. So they do it with music. I've seen it even done with books. It's usually just reimaginings more than anything. But or if they do remakes, it's to update the language, because sometimes there's just like stuff done incorrectly by modern standards as far as the language goes and stuff like that. But I've seen it done with just about everything.
Fair enough. All right.
What do you think of, AJ, when you hear like remakes or remasters?
Well, I'm the one with the messed up brain here, so when I hear remakes, I think of how do we make this movie, which is a classic, completely trash?
I like that.
No, I agree.
Think of movies. Point being,
I think some movies. There you go.
That's what I think when I hear, I'm gonna remake this movie. Let's just find a way to make it completely terrible. Right, and remasters are updated graphics on video games, updated quality, if you will, not just on games, but on music, as you said. It's just fixing things that were, that pestered the game, but it's something that's nostalgic, and that's what remasters are. It's just my opinion.
No, that's how I see it too. Because usually when it comes to like remakes, it's like taking something of old and putting it into like remaking it or making it again and just try to modernize it. When remastered is basically taking exactly what we have of old and just basically brushing off the dust or repolishing it and just repackaging it and all that and just serving it as what it once was, except just make it more look like it was made today rather than just switch it up and just spice in something new.
See, I like the word Brandon used, reimagining. There's also re-releasing.
Yes.
You know, like there's plenty of things that have been re-released as well.
My feeling for re-releases is that if it wasn't something that wasn't limited quantity, like they'll have limited edition or limited quantity releases of like, let's say a certain track or like vinyl or a certain product or something. If it's not strictly that, I feel like re-releasing is just how much more money can we possibly squeeze out of the consumer that calls themselves fans? Like, how much more money could we possibly squeeze out of them? Now, they say they don't have any more left, but we'll see. Like, and then we'll rename a product, you know, like the fan edition or something like that, or the remastered volume, and we'll just keep squeezing until we can't anymore. But anything that's come out on a CD after like a certain year, I would say like after 95, there's just no point to remastering it. Not for a while. Actually, pretty much not at all after like the year 2000. But they'll take it and they'll remaster stuff, usually to like tweak the sound settings and then say, okay, we've remastered it. It sounds way better. Spend another $40 on it. It's good. We swear it's worth the money. It's worth the money that we want. It's worth the money that we need. And that's usually how I feel about certain things like that.
So here's where we start tackling, for example, Crash Bandicoot.
Yes, I was hoping we would jump into the video games and the remastered stuff first because, as AJ said, it is true. Like, when we think of something remastered and all that, we barely see it. Or remake, excuse me. We barely see it in the video game world. It's really interesting. And I think the reason why that is because I think when it comes to video games, we can go back and just play something of old and find it to be very good. I mean, think about it. The original Super Mario Brothers that came out, like the very, very, very first one on the original NES and everything, it's still fun to play to this day. It's ridiculous. How is that possible? And so it's one of those where it was just that innovative where, like, don't fix what's not broken, right? Except you can make another one, hence the sequels and all that. But let's jump into what AJ said about the Crash Bandicoot. What did you want to say about it?
Well, for example, you made the Brandon was talking about remastering something that had just recently came out and just updating it. But to me, when you remaster a game that's like Crash Bandicoot that hasn't been released since like the late 90s to early 2000s.
Well, that's different than audio. I'm talking about strictly when it comes to audio, but just music. It's like almost insulting to say like, oh, we made it significantly better. So we have to like try to squeeze out an extra $40 out of you for this really limited edition album or something like that. Versus a game where it's just like, yeah, this game hasn't been out for 10 years, and by the way, if you haven't realized, we've literally multiplied resolution in the last 10 years, so you can actually see stuff now. You're not staring at little black blocks. You're actually seeing pupils. You see the rods in a character's eye now, because we've gotten to that point. So it's just like, yeah, it's worth it now. The video game is a whole nother story.
I mean, like okay, so for me, I want to use the example of like Skyrim Remastered. The whole reason that was remastered to me was to continuously get more money. You feel me? Like, that game was what? Not even 10 years old, and it got a remaster?
I feel like that could have actually been an update. So the remastering they did wasn't graphically. It In fact, the graphic updates were minor over the HD remake of Skyrim, which there was an HD texture pack update for Skyrim for the original game, and the remaster. If you look at them side by side, they're not that much different, really. The main difference for the new Skyrim remastering or the special edition one, the main difference between that and like the original one is definitely that it's under the hood stuff, like the way it processes and handles stuff is significantly faster, which for most people they won't notice it because most people are still playing it on the same toasters that they were back when the game first released. But for me, when I play the original game on my current computer, I'm sitting here, I have to wait through loading screens and sometimes stuff freezes up and everything. I play the special edition version and I don't have any freeze ups, I don't have any hangs, even though everything looks ugly and the people look like potato monsters. When I go into a loading screen, I don't even have time to read the first line of text before the game is done loading. So it's a significant bump up as far as everything under the hood goes. But that's stuff that literally just could have been enough, especially considering they gave it for free to people who already had the game. It was just like, why didn't you just make it an update at that point? It's really insulting to do something where you're just like, yeah, we made under the hood improvements, therefore we're going to charge everyone another like $40 if they don't have all the DLC immediately.
Dude, I mean, again, they're smart. They're making their money.
Oh yeah.
That's the whole point.
They're squeezing the life out of the consumer.
Yeah,
that's
and
don't
get me wrong. I shelved out $20 for the game, but you know. But
well, I got it.
The whole
for
point,
free because I had all the original DLC.
Yeah. See, for me, like, the whole point of remastering is to get people on the feels of nostalgia. Like, that's, to me, the whole point. Like, you know, oh my gosh, I had so much fun playing this game. You know what? I want to replay this game again. And that's why we do get our Crash Bandicoots and our Skyrims. There's plenty more. You know, you got the BioShock collection. That's
the
remaster.
I think they only ever remastered 1 and 2 for that one.
Yeah, that's true. They only remastered 1 and 2. But on a positive note of all these different remasters, I actually personally enjoy a majority of them. Because, well, especially if I haven't played the video game in a long time, like me, I'm a huge fan of BioShock. However, I haven't played them in a while, but when the remastered versions came out, not only was it giving me like a nostalgic ride, but it actually improved on a lot of the stuff I actually thought was technologically like lacking in the original game, and it felt like they could have made it better, and they kind of did in some situations. And another similar situation could be Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. That came out recently on the PlayStation 4. That was remastered, and graphically it looked great. The soundtrack was more tuned in, and they fixed a lot of the controls of the first game. Because I remember in the first game you had to control the camera by using like the trigger buttons, and that was awful. But they fixed it where you can actually use the analog stick, which is the same controls as the second game. So in other words, they gave Kingdom Hearts 2's controls to the first game in the remastered version, and personally for me, I thought that made the Kingdom Hearts 1 experience much better.
Yeah, I think that's where I feel that the remastered games are a good thing, is when they're fixing controls that were wonky before. Then it's like, okay, that was worth it.
It's like Resident Evil when they got remastered. You know how, like, when we used to play Resident Evil on the original PlayStation 1,
okay,
you had the whole walking animation was so terrible. You would have to press left or right in order for your character to face the way you wanted to move, and then press up or back, and that's the way like it would move. In the remaster of the Resident Evil of Resident Evil 1, the movement was much more better. You actually could finally, you know, move in the direction you wanted to move without pressing left or right and up, you know. And that's one of the things that remasters should be doing. Like, if there's...
I was about to say, I think in this situation of Resident Evil, it was more of a remake than it was a remastered, because they did change a lot of the stuff and they did mix it up a little bit. Sure, it's the exact same setting, a little bit of the same gameplay, same story, characters.
Too?
They did. Like in the remake of Resident Evil 1, like if you do not burn the zombies, they'll come back and they become even stronger and faster. But in the original game, that was completely absent. This is
why I'm going to say it's a remaster, though, because that remake was the GameCube version, and pretty much the remaster is the GameCube version of Resident Evil 1.
I don't get it.
Resident Evil was already remastered. It's a remake. The GameCube version is a remake of the Resident Evil game that came out for PlayStation 1. Now, we're talking about what we have now. That's the remastered version of the GameCube version that came out. You want me to break it down for you?
No, I get it. No, I get it now. No, for real. It just took me a second to like, oh, you're right.
So, Tark, you have a PS4, right?
Absolutely.
Out of curiosity, did you play the new version of Shadow Colossus?
Yes.
I think it was supposed to be a remastering of the
Shadow Colossus. I played that, and I also played the re-release of, what is that? The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm. That's a remaster as well.
Did they fix the controls for Shadow Colossus?
Personally, for me, I thought no. Personally, for me.
Okay. So that was something they should have done when they remade that one. It was great. Like, it looks even more beautiful than it did before, and it was already really ridiculously beautiful. Like, Square Enix and shoot, I forget. I can't remember that company. Like, when it came to taking advantage of the shader, I think it's called the shader cells for PS4. They found like the most extraordinary way to take something that is not high resolution and make it look high resolution. It was ridiculous. But the controls to Shadow of Colossus were absolutely atrocious. And they just kept it. They were like, we don't know how to fix it, so let's just keep it.
Funny how they were atrocious. I still thought that was like in the top 10 like best PlayStation 2 games.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. Like the controls are absolutely awful, but the story and the gameplay and stuff like that, it was great.
Hey, some of the stuff you would suffer for a good game.
I wouldn't call it an atrocious game, just for the simple fact that it was still playable.
No, the controls.
The controls.
I know the controls were terrible. I played the game. I'm just saying, like, terrible controls would make you totally not want to play the game.
True.
That is my opinion. I don't care about anybody else.
Some people to the challenge of the game.
Some people think it's worth suffering through, though. You know.
It's like with me. I played. We were talking about Resident Evil 1. I played that and Resident Evil 2 and 3. Those are wonky. Really wonky controls. I still played through and enjoyed the game so much. Like,
I felt the same way when I played Resident Evil 2. I didn't enjoy the controls, I kind of had to suffer through it.
Yeah, it's like the controls themselves were trying to fight against you.
You're like, I hate these controls, but the game's so good.
It was the whole point. I think that's the whole point of the challenge of the game. It's just you have horrible controlling, but you have to stick through it because you like the story itself.
If you really want to see what happens, you have to do it.
And I think if you remaster a game and take off the controls that make the game more challenging, I think, like, for example, like this remaster of RE1, it gives you the option if you want to play the classic controls or the newer, more modern controls. That to me is a great example of a remastering because it gives you do you want to play the nostalgic version or do you want to play in the new version, which, makes it easier for you to play. Now, if Shadow of Colossus would have done that, that would have been awesome.
I sort of wish that they didn't change that much of the graphics, though, because it's like, how are you going to feel nostalgic if your graphics are way too modern? I don't know about you, but it kind of takes away from me. Or like I feel like with RE1, it's like you want to sit there and feel like you were playing it as a child, but if you have those graphics, you're like, it doesn't feel right.
It's funny you mentioned that because the people who redid Halo had the exact same idea. So there's literally a switch where it's like, here, you can play with your old crappy graphics if you really want nostalgia, or you could play with the nice new graphics if you just want nice new graphics.
But that's the only thing. That's the only thing that they changed. That's the only thing that they changed. They changed the graphics only, and it looks like something brand new. But you've seen it before, and it worked. Even the soundtrack was so much better in the remake because it sounded more orchestraic and it sounded more grand in the remastered version of Halo 1 and 2.
Which is funny. I don't know if you've seen like the director's cuts where they show them recording the entire orchestra that they use for the album. It's literally it's a huge band orchestra.
Yeah.
And when you listen to the lossless files or you listen to the actual soundtrack, like outside of the game, it sounds absolutely amazing. They had to compress it to shove it into the game. And because of that, it just sounded terrible in the game. So they just basically took the uncompressed versions and stuck it into the remake.
The remastered versions, and you get like to hear everything, every instrument, every little tone and peak, and it sounds beautiful.
That's good though.
So, speaking of going back and like dealing with the old controls and things, the funnier thing was I want to go back to Crash Bandicoot for a second. I don't know if any of you have played the new remake for Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, I have not yet.
I don't have a PlayStation.
So my brother got it, and he started playing it. And my little brother has never played Crash Bandicoot. He remembers hearing about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
My friend Mario remembers playing it, and I remember playing it. Now, I always really enjoyed Crash Bandicoot. But Crash Bandicoot wasn't particularly an easy game. I don't know if any of you remember.
No.
The controllers itself were wonky. There we go.
Not only that, the way the game was programmed was basically that it was designed to work with the wonky controls. Like those controls could not work if the game worked properly. The controls would not work properly. Like it's just they're basically both made to be wonky in their own weird way, but they work perfectly fine. So it was funny. Like they were playing the game, and they're playing the remastered version, mind you. They're like, yeah, the game looks amazing, but I hate it. So I was like, well, why do you hate it? I was like, well, like there's these parts where you get chased by the boulder and you can't see where you're going, but you have to jump and dodge these holes and react to things that you can't see. I'm like, yeah, that's the part of the fun. You just gotta know. You gotta know where it's gonna happen. You gotta be able to literally react like a few seconds before it happens. And the more you mess up, the further back you get, so the easier it is to react. But now you're closer to dying, so any more mistakes, you die.
Yeah.
So it was really funny because he was just like, yeah, I don't... It's
actually, a lot of those games, they were kind of trial and error. Yeah. When you played them,
sometimes
you'd have to pretty much
levels.
Die and then remember what happened in that part where you died, so that way you can know exactly what to do to prevent dying.
Otherwise, you gotta react insanely fast these things.
Exactly.
And it was always really funny, like watching them. When I was watching them play, and they were just like getting super frustrated, and I was like, man, I remember this exact, because it's a straight remake. I was like, I remember this exact level, and it looks great on here, and I remember exactly how to beat it, and it's hilarious to watch them struggle and cry.
It's because we already put ourselves through the struggle, and
now
we stuck it through, man.
Now I'm gonna wait for the Crash Bandicoot Racing remake. That's gonna be the day.
Oh my!
Yeah, that's gonna be the new Mario. Yeah, that's gonna beat Mario Kart for sure.
For me, that was like way above Mario Kart. Playing that game. Yeah, I love that game way more than Mario Kart.
I like Crash Bash.
See, to me, like a lot of these games that have just done a lot, like. Just touch up on the nostalgia level, like when Xbox started releasing the Banjo-Kazooie games, Like they released Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and Nuts and Bolts. Even though that was, that was their new version. Those games they held dear because just like Crash, it was a nostalgic feeling, and the games sell because a lot of people they're like, wow, I remember playing this back in the day. It was one of my favorite games, and I should have given this picture to Brandon, but Rare Replay when they re-released everything, one of my favorite games for the N64 was Conker's Bad. No,
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Of course.
Yeah. One of my favorites.
It used to be. There was a remastered version called Conker Live and Reloaded that was released on the original Xbox, and the graphics was just unbelievably good.
But that was a remake because that wasn't a remaster.
You're right. They did change a few things, like many things actually, but they still stayed true to the original a lot.
They did, and this one that came out for Rare Replay is a complete remastering because it's everything that was on the N64 version.
Yeah, you're right.
And so, I don't get me wrong, I loved Live and Reloaded. The Matrix scene was hilarious. They also did a real cool ripoff of Van Helsing, which I thought was hilarious as well. But I always stayed true to the original Conker, man, and that was one of the games that I remember just playing in childhood. I don't know why my parents let me play it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have. That was.
I shouldn't have either. I was pretty young when I played it.
I think that's why I'm the disturbed.
It was good though.
It was very
person
good.
I am.
Good.
The disturbed person I am.
It turned out okay. I don't know about AJ.
I admit I came out messed up. I admit I came out messed up, okay? But
I knew what not to do and what not to repeat, okay?
Oh man, I wanted to bounce on some sunflower boobies so bad.
Oh my god.
But besides the point.
Moving on, this is interesting because when we think of remasters, we have a lot of video games that have been rehashed and remastered for, the modern day where they just come out repolished and everything. But there are also a very wide collection of remastered films. Now, this is actually really common because let's just take a film that we all love, like, let's just say Jurassic Park, for example. And then a few years ago, they re-released the original Jurassic Park in 3D, HD, and there was I think 4K, I'm not quite sure. But basically, do you guys consider something like that on the remastered level?
No. Like making it 3D?
Basically 3D, HD, anything that has been re-released. Do you consider the Star Wars prequel trilogy and original trilogy being re-released not too long ago with all those Lucas changes and all that stuff? Do you guys consider that remastered? What do you think?
They are.
I mean, yeah.
They're being brought into a new platform. Everything's being made to Blu-ray. They're all being remastered. It's the same thing with music, which we'll get on as well. Yeah. They work to sharpen the images. They work to make it clearer. They make the sound quality sharper.
They replaced
Star
Vader.
Wars.
They replaced Vader.
Oh no! We're not talking about Star Wars 7, man. Come on.
No.
He's talking about episode
Vader.
6. Yes, he's talking about episode 6 where Sebastian Shaw got replaced by Hayden Christensen.
You're right. Okay, yes.
Everybody else gets to stay old and crinkly when they die, except for Vader.
Yeah.
Hold on. How about they also fix Han?
Oh, Han shooting first? Yep, you're right.
Han doesn't shoot first. Okay, just remember that one as well. So now, you can definitely call them remastered because everything's getting enhanced. They all look better. There's several movies that also, like Disney, for example, they're all remastered. Little Mermaid, the priest doesn't have a boner.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh shoot, you had to remind me. You had to remind us all about that. I totally forgot about that.
A lot of movies get the good old Disney. Let's take out whatever looks like subliminal messages. You know.
Well, because all that stuff was meant for kids. So.
Of course.
Well,
that was disturbing.
Are you sure?
So, no. So the art of making a good kids film is being able to sneak in little tidbits like jokes and humor and stuff like that that's designed for the parents that have to sit through those movies with the kids.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but I think that's just so wrong though. Like you should just.
No, but there's not like not like the stuff that people have been saying they see. I'm talking about like little jokes where kids are like, I don't really get it, but it's kind of funny, and the jokes are just like the parents are just like, oh man.
Oh, they made that a lot on TV.
Yeah. It's just like, oh man, that's hilarious. It's really awkward that they made that. Like Rugrats had a couple of those and stuff like that, where the adults would say really weird things.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, like watch some of the stuff you watched as a kid. Go back to it now, and you'll realize some of the dark humor that was in there.
Oh yeah.
You'll be like, whoa, it shouldn't have been there.
Why didn't I catch it sooner?
Yeah, you were too young to understand, but now you do.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah.
I forgot what show it was. They were like, everything was doing. I was living good before you came, but now you're here. It's like, oh, that's messed up.
Oh my god.
And I was talking about a child. It was like everything was going good for me before you came.
Yeah, I actually saw a lot of that when I was
I was like, oh man, that's messed up.
Stuff like that. I'm like
the jokes of never get married and stuff like that. Like you just like, I don't get the joke, but then now you're older, you're just like, oh god, that's really terrible.
Pretty
Absolutely
much
true. But all that gets fixed. A lot of the subliminal stuff they're getting fixed. So the remastering of movies, it's necessary because like Lucen was saying earlier, Goth. She was like, well, these movies, these games, the graphics are getting updated. I don't know why it's remastered, but in a movie, if you watch a movie that's too grainy, it just it hurts the vision.
So I'm waiting for a. I guess it would have to be a reimagining, because you can't do a remake or remaster at this point. There's just no. It would just be terrible. I want a reimagining of Metropolis.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, yes.
You just made Tark happy.
Right? Like, if we're gonna leech off nostalgia, we might as well just go full ham and go with the classic of the classic of the classics and just go for Metropolis.
Oh man, sooner or later somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it.
Whoever it is gonna be the bravest person ever. Like, it's either gonna be a person with no career or with a person with so much career under their belt that they're just like, worst case scenario, if I bomb this, I'll break even. Because this is that movie has is really high in the film industry.
How about we just get J.J. Abrams to remake it, because he remakes everything.
No, he's gonna make it. He's gonna make it more adventure-y rather than
the problem is,
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he would do that, but the problem is this is the sort of thing where like you're staking your career on it. Trying to remaster that movie,
I know.
You're staking your career. Because if you screw that up, you'll always be remembered as the guy who screwed up the classic. One of the greater movies of all times. You screwed it up.
So why would anyone want to touch it though?
Exactly.
But that's why we haven't seen it yet. And notice how I emphasized on the yet, because like I said earlier, nowadays we're seeing plenty of remakes, plenty of remasters, and it's kind of like, it's almost like a cliche within itself, where nowadays Hollywood, and not just Hollywood, but a lot of different places, they're reverting to remaking old classics, or remastering, or reimagining, rebooting. Anything that has the word re-something, they're doing it to all these classics and all these original things, because it feels like either they cannot come up with original ideas, or there's more to it. And AJ, you're trying to get my attention. What is it?
I'm going to stay shut now and wait till everything is finished, because I'm going to go on a long rant.
Oh boy, about what?
About remakes.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get there. So you wanted to mention music?
I think for as far as remastering stuff like that, I've done what I could with music. I do like when people reimagine certain like iconic songs, so they'll do what we would now consider either covers or parodies, but there's reimaginings where it's not exactly covers. Like there's this one band that hold on, there's an entire album dedicated to it. Actually, there's several albums. Pop Goes Punk. There we go. It's specifically punk rock bands doing covers and reimaginings of pop songs, and they do the same thing for other genres too, where like they've done it for like a lot of really famous songs, stuff like that. But some of them will have like their own really funny twist to it, and it's some of it's really well done. And then there's the remasters of like really, really old songs. Like I've heard the original versions of some really old songs from like the 50s and 60s. Then you hear the reimaginings and you're just like, oh man, I can actually hear the vocals. Like I'm not just hearing crackling. I'm not just hearing vinyl crackles or anything like that. I'm not hearing those like the static from the bulbs and like there's a lot of really old tech in old players, so it's pretty ridiculous when you're trying to like listen to the music and it's all crackly and everything, and now it's crystal clear. At the same time, a lot of people feel like that's part of the charm, though.
Yeah, I get that.
So yeah, it goes back to what AJ was saying before, where the controls are wonky. In this case, where there's static and hissing and stuff like that.
Whereas like that was their thing, though.
Yeah,
that's what made it like its thing, basically.
Yeah. Well, I like this because what you were just talking about was people remaking and taking their own forms of a song or covers. And someone had asked me what was my favorite covers in music itself. And for me to truly appreciate a song being covered, it has to exceed the original version. So like, you know.
Do you think anything that the kids have sang in Glee was as good as the original versions?
No, of course not.
There's one song.
Which one?
You heard them do the cover for Baby?
Oh, you mean Justin Bieber's Baby?
Oh, but anyone
That's the only Baby that I know
of. So if you heard that when I originally listened to it, I was like, man, this song is really good. I don't think I've ever heard this song. And then they broke into chorus, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I can't even freaking believe it. I was just like, wow, this song's lyrical content isn't bad. It fits high schoolers perfectly. It fits the high schoolers perfectly, and then like the guy who was singing it did it really well. And I was like, you know, this is really, really good. And then he hit the chorus, and I was just like, oh man, this is so bad, because it was so good. But then when you realize what song it is, you like instinctively want to hate it because you remember who's singing it, like how it was done and everything before, and it just bothered so many people.
Why you hate on Justin Bieber, man?
No, there is some really good songs though that were like mixed up to change into like other genres and stuff, and they sound amazing.
Don't be hating on Justin Bieber, man. No, but again, like if you're gonna cover a song and make it your own, you have to do much better than what the original artist did. And someone had asked me like, oh, what are your favorite covers? And to me, Johnny Cash's "Hurt" will always be number one on my list. I love Nine Inch Nails, and Trent Reznor did a great job of writing that song and making it as well. But when Johnny Cash put his heart and soul into that song, and you knew what Johnny Cash was going through at that time, like it was just perfect for him. He put his heart, his soul, everything into that song, and it made it his own, to the point where the creator of the song itself was like, dude, I can't even say that's my song anymore. Like the guy literally made it his own song. And so like if you take a song and you make it your own, which is called pretty much a remake, right? You have to like there's certain bands that do it, it's terrible. There's certain people that do it, it's terrible. You have to exceed the quality of the original content. Which is why I don't want to get into movies yet, because I will rant forever. And I will keep.
I have some stuff to say about movies too.
Me too. I think we all do. Let's not lie to one another now.
So, have you guys heard Bruno Mars do Uptown Funk?
Yes.
Yeah.
I really like that. Was another one that he did Actually, I think he worked with the original artist too, but that was another one where I was just like, I like this. This is like, it feels like all they did was try to make a modern version with a newer artist, but it was the same song. The video was really well done. It was hilarious too. So I thought that was another one of those really good remakes. I don't know if I would say it's better than or anything than the original. I would say if anything it's more along the lines of equivalent to it, because that's what it's supposed to be. It was supposed to be.
It's on even lines for me. Like,
but, you know what else? Whitney Houston covering.
Yes, I was just about to. Yes, I was just about to say that, because everybody, when they think of "And I Will Always Love You," everybody thinks about Whitney Houston, but not many people tend to remember Dolly Parton did that one too, if not first. Yeah.
It's the Whitney vocals, dude. Come on, she's like, and I'm like, oh my
god. Her vocals beat a lot of other vocals, so it's like.
Yeah, so there's one other song.
Hard to measure
one of
up.
these days, I gotta play it for you guys, because I think Goth is probably the only one who's heard it, because I don't think anyone here listens to the Wombats.
Fuck.
I know who the Wombats are.
Oh, you guys do listen to the Wombats? All right, so you heard their cover of "Bleeding Love."
Yes.
So that one was probably the funniest thing ever. I don't know if you guys know the backstory to that one. They literally stumble into a studio drunk on wine, and we're just like, all right, we're gonna sing something. They're gonna say we're gonna do a song, and they start singing, and it ends up being "Bleeding Love." Meanwhile, they only have like 2 of the band members, and it's a three-person band. They only have 2 of the band members, and they managed to record a whole song. And it ends up really, really good. And I showed it to a couple people, and they're like, I don't know what this song is, but it's really, really good. And I'm just like, oh, just wait. And then it hits the chorus, and they're just like, this doesn't even sound like the original song, but I could tell just by the chorus that it's that song. So it's absolutely hilarious. But it's definitely another one of my favorite covers.
There's a lot of covers I can just continue going, because I love music. I just sit there and just listen to a whole bunch. Like
yeah, Michael Jackson did covers. Cher did covers.
Of course.
I was gonna say the Fugees. You know, people don't remember that one of their best songs is a complete cover. And I'm just waiting. Someone's like, "What?"
No, I get you.
Which one? Which one, Tark?
The Fugees, man. No, the Fugees.
Let's move past the music.
Be softly with his song.
Let's move past the music. Oh yeah, actually, Steve versus I brought up a good point where Kanye West took up part of Daft Punk's music, and everybody was like, "Man, Kanye West is a genius." And I'm just like,
we're like,
I wouldn't call that a cover though. That's more like sampling, which is another form of remaking a song. You know how many songs have samples? Like,
yeah, that's a thing.
Nero pretty much makes a living. Like one of their albums, like half of the songs are samples.
Yeah, like,
and the funny part is some of it's like quotes from movies. Some of it is literal just other old songs. Where I would go back and I'm like, I know I've heard this song. I'll look it up. And it's from like the 70s or 80s, but it's an old song. They took it, they sampled it. Daft Punk does the same thing too.
Yeah,
I want to throw out Dr. Dre's genius, because he also does it a lot with a lot of soul music, a lot of
But that's because he's literally trying to recapture his favorite songs.
Mm-hmm.
Like he says that in interviews. He's like, I want to recapture these songs. I want people to listen to it and be like, I feel like I've heard this. They'll look into it. They'll pick up that old song. But he wants to keep old music alive. Same way Daft Punk does. They're weird and crazy people where they want to keep funk alive. But they want their own spin on funk. And they want most, if not all, the vocals done by robots. I don't know if you know. Most of their music, all the vocals are done by machines that sound like people. They're not done by people.
Human after all, human. You know. Yes, I never.
No, but like a lot of the songs, like a lot of times people are just like, so who's singing with them? And it's like, no, they synthesized those vocals.
No one.
And it's crazy because their last album, they had one of the most influential of the composers of like, you know, that whole style of music, which was Giorgio Moroder. There you go. See, Tark was talking about him in one of his streams, I remember. And he actually like gives a backstory.
Yeah, that was gonna say they have him doing a whole story and everything. That was one of my favorite songs from that album because I was just like, what? I thought they just named the song after him and sampled it, and then I heard him doing that, and I was just like, this is awesome. I love this song.
It was his story of how he tried to bring up the whole discotheque, like during the time of the discotheque, what he wanted to do and how he wanted to bring the sounds of the future with, you know,
I mean,
the
same thing happened with Daft Punk too. I don't know if you know that's how they got their name. Everyone was literally just calling them stupid.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody was just like, your music's stupid, and that's where Daft Punk comes from. Because everybody everybody was calling their music like a stupid style of punk, because like that's how they understood it.
But think about it right now; they're the most popular of their genre.
They were honestly just ahead of their time.
Yes, absolutely.
Plus, anybody who incorporates anime into their music will always get 2 thumbs up.
So if you by the way, the whole thing is called Interstellar 5555.
Yes,
you gotta watch it if you haven't seen it.
So
it's spectacular because it has zero actual vocals. There's all of it. Everything is synthesized. The whole thing, and there's no speaking parts or anything. It's all just music, and it's really well done.
Love it.
I like how we tried to move past music. We tried.
Oh hey, you guys want to try again? Try again.
Music is good. Music is good. That's what it is.
Music's good. Music's life.
All right.
Same. All right.
So
are we going to if we're going to movies, I'm going to let you guys speak before I get on.
No. Hold on. Brandon, what do you want to say?
So
what are we moving on to?
I say we do move into movies.
Okay.
And as far as movies go, I actually want to go right before AJ because I do wanna say something, and I feel like it's gonna upset AJ, and that's why I want to go right before AJ.
Be careful what you say, man. Let's see it.
Let's go. Do you guys wanna mention anything or say anything about movies and remasters, remakes, and etc.?
Well, before we begin, I guess I should say, yeah, as I said, this is my 3rd time. We live in a world where everything's being remade nowadays, and I think the reason why that happens is quite a number of reasons. One, it could be that a lot of these studios, they want to, what we mentioned earlier about remastering, video games. They're just trying
milking nostalgia.
Exactly. And they're kind of riding on nostalgia a little bit. And sure, nostalgia may work for a lot of times, but that doesn't mean the entire thing, and nostalgia is going to make everything wonderful or make everything, perfect. So, oh my gosh, it's so nostalgia, and when we're watching it, we're enjoying it, and then afterwards, when it's over, we're going to reflect on it and be like, wait. Do I really remember anything from that film other than just, reflecting on my old days? Jurassic World. But besides that...
that's different. That's actually a direct sequel.
Yes, absolutely.
That is a sequel, so that is different. It is a not great sequel. Honestly, it probably would have worked better as a video game than a movie, I feel like. But it is a sequel.
But it also gives me that feeling that all these remakes are coming out because I think a lot of people are just kind of either running out of ideas or they just feel like this is what the audience wants. And in a way, that is kind of true. For example, I'm a big fan of the Halloween film series and the Scream film series. And Goth, I know you are too. And so if we were to see another...
movies that are listed right now.
Oh yeah, great, totally. Oh yeah, me too. So if we were to see another... Me too, without a doubt. I like all these that we have on the screen at the moment. And so if we were to see like another Scream, let's say, for example, many years from now, if Scream were to be remade, I don't know why they would, but let's just say it would be, that would be great that we would have another Scream, but at the same time, it would be like, wait, why is this really happening again and all that other stuff? It'll give us that, well, I don't know about you, but it'll give me that idea that they're just trying to ride on the first one or the other ones, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I can kind of tell from AJ's perspective, I'm pretty sure you're going to say all remakes are horrible, but I will say there are a few that hold up.
I know where AJ is going. I have a feeling I know where AJ is going to go, and that's not where he's going to go. But
okay, good.
I'm gonna bring up a point that might upset him, but you go continue.
No. I was just gonna say that. Yeah, AJ, here we go.
Wait. Am I gonna go? Wait.
Oh, wait,
no.
Sorry,
Yeah, you're gonna go.
So when it comes to the reimaginings, there's a lot of reimaginings I like, I enjoy. Some of them are really, really cool. I feel like the first attempt, like just to give an example, the first attempt with Spider-Man, where they brought it over to live action, it was a reimagining of one of the original Spider-Man series. And they tried changing things to make it easier to understand, like the fact that his web slinging was organic.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and they tried to make it a little funny. And
believe it or not, that was actually James Cameron's idea, to be honest with you.
Because it's easier to understand than science.
Yes.
I hate to put it that way, but it's literally that they assumed that the average person who doesn't know Spider-Man would not understand the science, and they didn't have time to go through it. And most of the time, they skim over it. They'll just be like, oh yeah, the webs are my own custom design type of thing. They really skim through it. Not that there's really much to say, because it's not something that can be like thrown out scientifically, you know? But yeah, so I thought it was really, really funny. But the second and third movies, I didn't really appreciate, especially the third. I didn't appreciate as much. Then they went and tried to reimagine it again.
Yeah.
And that was terrible.
And that just, for me, it didn't work out as well.
No.
Did not work out at all. I think there's only one reason I watched it, and that was
Spidey.
No, it was a love interest. It was the only reason I wanted to watch it.
Gwen Stacy?
They took my two favorite things that you could possibly have found in a love interest, and they put them together. They took one of my favorite actresses, and they took one of my favorite love interests, and they put them as one character, and I just couldn't handle it emotionally. So I haven't even watched the second one, because I know what happens. So I refuse to watch it. I have the movie. I can't. I'm not doing it to myself. I'm gonna sit in a corner and die if I watch the second one. So
you gotta put yourself through it, man. You gotta put yourself through it, man.
I can't handle it. I won't do it. So those reimaginings, like the first attempt was pretty good, but the second attempt wasn't that great. I feel like the third attempt was probably my favorite one. It was probably the best attempt because Because, for one, all the high schoolers don't look like 30-year-olds.
Yeah, that's true.
Huge ups. Huge ups for high schoolers that don't look like 30-year-olds.
It's really hard to come by.
Tom Holland's actually 21, 22.
You're just like, wow, this character is really attractive. Oh, right, they're supposed to be 16. That's really weird. Now in the new one, you're just like, yeah, they're all like 15, 16 years old, and they look 15 to 16 years old. Like, they actually look that age. It's pretty amazing.
Tom Holland's 21.
But
just throwing that out.
Just saying.
He does look like he's 15.
Come on, but they're supposed to look that age that they're playing. Seriously. So it's good when they do.
Exactly. They actually casted, I feel like, correctly. When they reimagined the characters, they didn't have these, like... So, Spider-Man's original character set is pretty generic. Like, it's supposed to be really generic. It's supposed to apply to everyone in high school at that time. When they did both these, the first two sets of Spider-Man, it was a pretty bad set of characters because they stuck with the same character archetypes, those same generic character templates, instead of making new character templates. This new one was great because now the bully is like, I'm the bully because I'm smarter than you, and I'm going to try to prove to everybody I'm smarter and cooler and have the expensive stuff. And you know, he's this like supposed to be this really suave, what is it? I think he's supposed to be
jerk,
a Middle Eastern guy. So, anyways, the love interest,
without spoiling anything.
No, I'm just making understanding the character archetypes. The love interest is biracial. And Spider-Man himself, they actually give an ethnicity to, something that I don't think they've ever done before in any of the series, including the animated series. They never stated his ethnicity. He's always just supposed to be Caucasian or in one version African American. Like, that's it. There was no explanation or anything like that. Actually, most of the time they don't even say, like, they don't even mention his race or anything. In any way, but so this one they do, and they make all the characters way more interesting. I think for this new one, it was much better. But still though, with every reimagining, they always change a lot. So over the course of all of the Spider-Man series, he goes from freshman year in high school. Actually, I think there's one version he might be even younger. Freshman year in high school to college graduate. That is an 8-year span. Actually, the 1990 series of Spider-Man, he is in his doctorate's program by the end of the series. So that is officially almost a 16-year span difference of what they could do with this character and how much they changed his character and everything like that. And they've literally gone all over the place. They've changed him from, like, they've even picked different characters to be Spider-Man, but they're all like characters in the series. They've gone all over the place with it, and I love that they keep changing it. It's never the same. It's always very different. The only thing consistent is that and I can't even say he or she, it sticks to walls, it slings on webs,
and it's got strength as well,
and super strength, and agility. Those are the character types of Spider-Man, Spider-Person. Spider.
Okay, you could.
But like I like how they did Spider-Man. Is my point being. There's other series where they reimagine it, and it doesn't work out very well, or they'll keep trying to reimagine it until they get something that sells really, really well. The best example of that would be Alice in Wonderland. For every iteration of Spider-Man, there is at least 30 Alice in Wonderlands.
Yes.
There is at least 30 of them.
And I didn't like majority of them. And I remember watching the first of the new Tim Burton Alice in Wonderlands, and I remember how everybody was so hyped up about it. The moment he said he was going to do it, everybody, including myself, we were all excited, and I went to see it in the theaters, right? And I'm going to be honest with you, throughout majority of the film, I was so confused on what was going on. I'm not going to lie.
I liked it. Visually.
Yes, visually it was gorgeous.
They
it was
did
colorful.
That like 100%, just right. It's exactly what I imagined it would look like, but the story change threw me off so hard that by the end of it, I was like, well, at least it was pretty.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to react to that.
So
it was like Willy Wonka when that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay quiet.
Ew.
But like, some of these reimaginings can be like super duper toxic. I mean, the only reimagining of Alice in Wonderland I really enjoyed was what's this guy's name? I think I might have his book somewhere. But this guy did a whole book about how it's kind of like Alice Madness Returns. Actually, it's very similar to that, where the whole story is explained as the whole thing is everyone convincing Alice she's insane, she's in an insane asylum. And this is a popular theory for the actual series, but she's in an insane asylum. And even though the story was written as her being a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, that was just like what happens when you hand it to somebody from the area that she's in and they're trying to make a popular story. So back then, blonde hair, blue eyes was the ideal person. So in actuality, she had like black hair with brown eyes, and she was a very plain looking girl and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
Like
I remember.
girl.
So between Alice Madness Returns, which was a video game imagining of it, and it was really good for the video game imagining, and then
Yes.
I really gotta find this book. I think it was called Looking Glass Wars, but it was
Oh, boy.
Something like that.
I feel like it was one of the more interesting interpretations of Alice in Wonderland, because
Yeah,
all of them were just
Definitely.
so confusing and so awful.
that one explained itself a lot,
Yeah.
and I like the way it started, where it kind of showed you the world, like how it ran,
Yeah.
and then
There's
it like
actual-
progressed really
Like,
well.
there's actual logic to the world, even though like a lot
Exactly.
of the people and the stuff is really weird. There's
Yeah.
logic.
Of
Because
course.
because when you think of Alice in Wonderland, you think there's no logic to the world because everything's just weird.
And they go and they start showing how Lewis Carroll had like taken this girl's traumatic experience and warped it into his own silly little book. And she's like, "This isn't what I said. This isn't what I talked about." And he's just like, "No, it's fine. You're crazy, so don't worry about it." Like,
Oh no.
it's just like, "Oh, it's whatever. You're a little girl. No one cares what you say or think. So I'm just gonna take this, warp it into a book." And like, you see all these really cool, interesting characters being like get warped, and you start remembering what the original series is like. And you're just like, "Wow, they really warped the story." But I could see where Lewis Carroll, who had gotten the inspiration from and stuff like that, like how the book explains it and everything. And it's even crazier because obviously Alice is supposed to come into our world. All those characters come into our world, like some of them come into our world, and they start explaining how they're using the book to try to track down where Alice really is, to try to find Alice in our world. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah,
That sounds interesting.
it's really
It's
interesting.
really good.
The only thing that's Alice in Wonderland that I like is the games that came out.
Oh, you.
Madness
Yeah.
Returns.
Yes,
Madness
those. I'm not
Returns.
gonna lie. Those games were actually pretty entertaining and kind of scary. If I.
I never
Yeah.
actually played them, but I have seen
dude.
some of them,
They're
and
intense.
they look really interesting. I'm not gonna lie.
Stream it, guys. You
Always,
gotta
like,
stream it
go
now.
out.
It's in my Steam library, so either I could stream it or you can download it because you have access to my library anyway, so you could always play it. So you don't do that.
Uh-oh.
I'd rather just watch you play it.
All right, Brandon, continue before I go on my rant.
Wait, what about Goth? I want to hear what Goth has to say about the remakes and all that when it comes to films.
AJ was supposed to go next.
Oh, but AJ, we all know he's gonna go. So we need the appetizer before the main course. So
Okay. Really?
I honestly don't know what to say about it. Like, there's so
I mean,
many
is there any
movies that got
you
remade.
liked?
Most
Or
of them
anything
I
that
did not
sticks out?
like.
oh, most you did not like. Okay.
Most of them I did not like. Because you see, growing up, especially with the movies that are on the screen right now.
Oh yeah.
I grew up with those. You know, I watched those as a really young child.
You mean the
And-
upper half of the
Yes,
image?
the original ones, okay. Before they were remade, and I don't know, seeing the remakes, it's just, I don't know. When I was a child, all of that stuff was scary to me.
Yes.
It was frightening. I used to have nightmares of Freddy, and it was really bad. But I enjoyed that about them, that they played so much into my life that I can still remember them to this day.
Me too.
It's something that's a big part of my childhood, a big part of my, like, just my overall personality as well. Because I think that if I hadn't watched those kind of movies when I was younger, I would not necessarily be the same person I was today. I wouldn't be so intrigued by all these weird stuff, you know, and all this horror movie genre. But when they remade some of them, I kind of feel as if they lost that aspect of horror, and they lost that aspect of being creepy or scary or like even remotely good in plot. So like that was pretty much how I felt when those movies were remade. It kind of like, it was sort of a disappointment. I don't know, like for me it was just, I watched them and I was like, no, they shouldn't have done this. I don't like this. This was horrible. And like the whole feel of back then, some of the movies back then were they were grainy, but for the horror movie genre, it was a good thing. It amped up the creepiness of the movie. It amped up the whole feel of horror. So for me, that was good. I don't like what they did. Everything looks so much more crisp now, and for the horror movie genre, that doesn't really work for me. With Carrie in particular, I'm not gonna lie, I liked all the movies for Carrie. I think it was just one of those movies that interests me, and I liked seeing what they did with the newer version versus what they did with the old one. So that one, I think I'd say, is the only one that was... Oh, am I here still?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay, that was... Carrie was really the only movie that I liked that was remade, you know? So there's one that I liked. There you go. At least I liked something.
Yeah,
I think the original is better though.
I'm with you on that one, Goth, because same thing. I grew up watching all these original films as well, and I think the reason why, like for example, going back to the image that we have on the image that we're looking at now. I grew up just like you, watching the upper half and all that other stuff, and I think the reason why the remakes that we see below them are like doesn't stand up to the original ones is because, personally for me, I think it's because the remakes, they changed so much. Just as you said, they changed what made the original ones so special. So for example, what made the original Nightmare on Elm Street so well done was the usage of dream mechanics and how like it makes you wonder what you're watching. Is it dream or is it real life? And then it's almost like a fantasy film. When in the remake, Jackie Earle Haley, who plays as Freddy Krueger, great actor by the way, but just the film wasn't on par, nowhere near on par with the original, because one, they use a lot more CGI than they had to, and he was using his glove to kill people rather than using that dream mechanic and making you question what you're really looking at instead of what they wanted to do, which was give cheap scares and make things more violent. Yeah, we moved into a situation where when it comes to horror, everything is more violent than what they were before, and I don't know whether it's because we like that stuff and we need it, or we have the technology to do so, which I honestly think it's the first one, because as AJ once said, we had the blood and gore of back then, like Dead Alive. AJ remembers Dead Alive and all that, right?
I kick ass for the Lord.
Yes, so it's like that. So it just makes me wonder what's going on here. But when it comes to what we see for our image, all those remakes, even though they were all, I respect them and I actually enjoy them for like other reasons, but comparing them to the original, it's like, but that's the thing.
No comparison.
That's the thing. I think we're trying too hard to compare them to the original when I think the purpose of it was to look at it from its own thing. But for those people who grew up, or those people who are familiar with the original source material, you kind of can't help but to do it and all that other stuff. And
I mean, I feel as if like, well, for some of the newer ones that came, the remakes, it's just some of them plot-wise changed to a fact that I couldn't enjoy it. I was just like, no, I don't. No, at least the original ones had some sort of like background, some sort of history laid out, and you got into it. But I just couldn't do it with the remakes, which is why I said when it came to Carrie, they did throw out their own like thing, you know.
Yes.
They had some sort of explainative background where you kind of understood where the main character was coming from, and where the mom was from, and everything else.
And not only Carrie, but I also thought The Hills Have Eyes, the remake directed by Alexandra Ala, I thought that was better than Wes Craven's original version. But that's like that one exception and all that and stuff. All right.
So is it rant time?
Okay, everybody buckle.
Now I'm gonna upset you.
Oh.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
So I thought at least like 70% of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle remakes were really, really good and better than the original.
Oh yeah. Let's not get into that now. And I think the reason why is because like gameplay-wise, it was just great. Yeah.
Not Brandon, just the games, but the animated series.
Brandon, don't do this to yourself.
I like the animated series.
Do you really have Turtles in Time up there? You're gonna tell me the newer one was much better than the original one?
Well,
I mean,
Brandon,
the game was all right.
Brandon, don't do this.
The new one was all right for the game. I'm more talking about the animated series more than anything.
But
also the game, but you know.
Whoa! You're saying Turtles in Time?
They're on par. They're on par with each other. That's what I'm saying.
Brandon, just stop it. Stop it.
Oh no!
I knew. Brandon, stop it. Brandon, you're talking about my favorite Super Nintendo game. Don't do this to yourself. Because that game's atrocious. One, the graphics look nice and everything, but the whole movement itself is wonky. It's terrible.
For me, the first one was super wonky for me.
No. It is as flawless of a beat 'em up game there is. The only game that could compare to TMNT, Turtles in Time, is Streets of Rage, and that's it. There's no other beat 'em up that, and maybe Castle Crashers, because Castle Crashers is very good for its time.
But once again, for Castle Crashers, they're taking something of old and just repolishing it and rebranding it, and then they do something original with it, if you know what I mean. So,
the TMNT reboot was terrible. First of all, it didn't have the same feel as it did back then. The controls again were terrible, wonky, and they took off the most important part of the game, the soundtrack. That soundtrack from the Super Nintendo version, hands down one of my favorite soundtracks of video games. Period.
Yeah, it did have a dope soundtrack. Like the old one did have a dope soundtrack.
Yeah. It was pretty good. It was good.
Brandon, we're still friends, but I'm highly.
Well, have you? So AJ, which version of the animated series is your favorite?
Are you kidding? It's the original animated series of TMNT, the one where it's all like they had those big eyes and they were all like really.
Have you watched that one recently?
Yeah, I have.
I can't watch it.
Oh, why not?
It's so goofy and so
it is.
terrible.
You're right.
That's the whole point.
No.
It's one of those series where every episode is as if the previous episode didn't even happen.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. The reason why I like it is because, and this is probably a little bit of a bias thing and all that, but the reason why I like it is because nowadays I'm starting to notice how that the original series is diving more into like martial arts, the martial arts code and Bushido, like I'm starting to notice that now when I'm older compared to when I was a kid. I just watched it because I like seeing the turtles like kick butt and save the day.
And they were all silly. There was no character depth, so you didn't have to think about anything. Like there were 4 turtles, and really the difference between all of them was that Mikey liked pizza more than everybody else, and that everybody had different weapons. That was the depth of the characters.
No, actually, there was more depth if I realized. You could tell Raphael was more of the hothead of the group.
Oh, yeah. They
Donatello
had,
was
slight things. Donatello was supposed to be like the smart one, but they didn't really like go crazy into the character depth. They went way more into the depth of each character in the newer ones, like the 2000 series.
That's the whole. But okay, so if you look at everything back then to what they are now, you can tell that it's more complex. Any cartoon, any animation from back then that they rebooted now, there's always more depth into it added than what it was back then. And it's not just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You could tell from a whole bunch of them that there's more going into it. Like Samurai Jack now has more story into it than what it was in the past.
No, even the older episodes have way more depth than like some of the cartoons at the same time.
No, but if you compare Samurai Jack now to what it was back then,
that's because they took off the rating filter that they had before on it. So if you didn't notice, before it was rated like TVY.
TVY, yeah.
Yeah.
Now
it's like Y7. There we go. It was rated Y7, and now it's rated actually 14 or M. I'm not even sure which is it. Maybe 14
Samurai Jack.
The new one.
Yeah, it's for adults. It's on Adult Swim.
Yeah, there's there's blood, there's actual like death, there's actual adult content and stuff like that. Like the newer one is pretty much a completely different series. It's almost a completely different series.
I feel like with these series, you gotta understand that they were made for children.
Yeah, but
that's what I'm saying. It was made for children.
The newer ones are still made for children. Is that their target audience? They're now not assuming are as stupid as rocks. Like when we were little kids, all our cartoons were really shallow because they just assumed kids were dumb as rocks. So once you put bright colors and silly comedy and relatable stuff like pizza, video games, fighting, comedy, as long as you put those basic constructs in front of us, they were like, we got them. Yeah. 8 seasons sold. We got them. They're hooked.
I think they were also assuming
the toys right now.
They were also assuming a child's attention span as well. So that's kind of how they had to leave it. As like you said, how every episode it was like the previous episode never happened.
Yeah,
it's kind of why they have to do that. They thought the memories and the attention span of the children were not going to comply well with the more mature content, basically.
I totally agree with Brandon that the cartoon now is much more in depth. I totally agree with him.
Actually, the one currently right now is probably my least favorite. It is the weirdest. I want to say the weirdest one. The one that's right now is the Nickelodeon one.
Oh yeah,
is that the one where Michelangelo has the bug teeth, like the gap?
Donatello has a tooth gap and is in love with April O'Neil.
Yeah,
and even April O'Neil and what's his name with the hockey mask?
Casey Jones. Yeah,
Casey Jones. They're both little kids as well. And when they say teenagers, they mean like 13. It's not teenagers like high school teenagers. They mean
early on.
Like 8th grade.
Like just turned into teenagers.
All the characters are really young characters. So I don't really like this version. I like the
early 2000s one.
Yeah.
Where they actually go in depth with every character
and everything like that. They took it. They went really crazy when they went like through time and all this kind of stuff. But I felt like they were really trying to explain the alien race that had zero depth in the original series. The original series was like aliens, whatever. Don't worry about it. Don't question it. They're aliens. It's like don't question why there's only one, and then they don't never show up except like for writers' convenience in the original series. In the newer one, it was like it's all surrounding them, but it's kind of like a shadow organization, and they don't really explain it. And you think it's actually like one thing, and it turns out like they really did it well. I feel like, and then they were like, all right, we took that way too seriously, and I think we lost some kids there. So let's just try making it dumb again. And now they're going back to making cartoons dumb again.
I think that's the point, though. But you're blasphemy from before I forgive you. Okay. All right, so can AJ now go on his rant?
Oh man, but don't go too all out, man. Don't.
I'm going to throw this out. I don't hate every remake. There's certain remakes that I do appreciate.
Of course.
The Thing from 1980s. That was a remake.
You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh. And that remake is that's like the prime example. That's it. You're right. I totally forgot. You're absolutely right. Oh, how could I? You're right.
Thank you, Cinema Buff, for giving me that confidence. I know my cinema. I also enjoyed the Dawn of the Dead remake. It's
the Zack Snyder one.
It wasn't bad. I appreciated it for its little minor things that they added to it. Don't get me wrong, George A. Romero, rest in peace. He's always greatest of any zombie movies until he started making really bad ones. But there are remakes that I do appreciate, and I just named 2. There's plenty more. But now here's my gripe with remakes.
Okay.
We just talked about the horror film remakes, the slasher films, and Carrie. They're all trash remakes. Terrible, poop, garbage, basura.
Okay.
Everything.
Yes.
Right? They try to add things that they shouldn't have tried to add.
Mm-hmm.
For example, they tried giving Michael Myers a backstory.
I think the thing was that they tried adding depth.
Yeah.
To these movies because now they're assuming their audience is smarter. I feel like that was both a good and bad thing. Because it harms the newer audience. It's to the benefit of the older audience. But
yes, and I can kind of see...
all of the older audience appreciates it. That's where it's like...
Exactly, and I can kind of see the fear in that when it comes to writing, because if we create a character, or in this case a monster, where we deliberately do not give backstory and they just do something for the sake of doing it, it's supposed to... The goal of it is to make it scarier. So, for example, for Michael Myers, they didn't explain why he was killing the babysitters until the sequel. But if we were just to pretend it was just one film,
also, may I add?
What's up?
Backstory gives sympathy, which is why there was no backstory. We didn't need sympathy for monsters.
And
why would we want to sympathize with them?
And it made things a lot more scary, and it makes things much more frightening, because like, well, why was Michael Myers killing people? Why was Michael Myers too invincible? And the explanation was, he is just evil incarnate. So like that is perfect.
Yeah,
but nowadays, the reason why we need an explanation, I can kind of see from the writer's perspective, it's a little bit of a fearful thing. Like if we leave too much unanswered, it might give off like a negative response, because people be like, that's too confusing, not enough is explained, it sucks. But at the same time, I don't want that much explained either. But it's going from the modern perspective, the modern audience's their eye, I guess.
Okay,
AJ.
So here's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Goth hit it perfectly. The backstories, adding backstories to this, like to the movies, they try to make us sympathize to to give sympathy to the character. We're not supposed to. They're the bad guys. They're going around killing people.
Yes.
You don't cheer that. You're supposed to say no, that's bad, and you're wanting whoever's getting victimized to survive. Yeah. So when Rob Zombie, damn you Rob Zombie, I hate you for ruining Halloween, when he added that Michael Myers came from a really bad family,
yes,
and all that garbage, they try to make you give sympathy to Michael Myers so that like when he actually does commit these actions, you know why he did it, because he grew up in a horrible...
I would rather have wondered about it forever than know that.
It was terrible. The same thing with Freddy Krueger. Mm-hmm. They gave the backstory that he was, quote unquote, they alleged that he was a pedophile.
Oh yeah. Didn't they change it so that it was only an accusation, not an actual crime?
Yes. In the original one, yes, he was a child murderer. He was a child murderer. Yeah, and then in the remake, he's a child murderer and molester.
Yeah,
but in the remake, he's only alleged, isn't he?
He's alleged.
No. Wait,
I thought it was he alleged.
I thought it was fact.
No, in the remake, he's alleged.
Okay.
And in the old one, it's a fact.
See, I think that change is like stupid because it changes everything of how you see him. Once you say, hey, this guy is guilty, he's a bad person.
I'm going to correct myself. The old one, he's alleged.
The old one, he's alleged.
And the new one is a fact.
Yes.
Hey, there you go, you turned it around.
Yeah, I turned it around. But they try to give you sympathy for these guys. You're not supposed to have sympathy for any of these characters. Yeah. That's why, and not only that, like, a lot of these characters are psychological.
Yes, extremely.
In these movies, they go straight for the gore. They go straight for the violence. Like Tark was saying, Freddy, all psychological. Is this a dream? Is this reality? What's going on? I don't want to stay awake. I don't want to go to sleep. I'm going to try and stay awake. And when a character does go to sleep, you're like, oh snap, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
None of that. Everything was psychological in those movies. Jason, as much as he went around killing people, he's such a psychological character because you don't know where he's coming from. Like, he can come from anywhere. In the movie, Jason, you know where Jason's at. He doesn't have any of those cool psychological powers that he has. It was so predictable, like, where he was and what he was doing. Same with Michael Myers. Michael Myers, evil incarnate. Okay? Back in the old days, you knew he was evil and you knew he had the power of evil. Like, you didn't have to humanize him. It's just so much. But these are the horror movies. Now, let me get into the real shebang.
Well, hold on. Before we do that, when you were talking about backstory and all that other stuff to characters, as what Clever Catsnip just said, there are a few, like, exceptions that even I can think about where the backstory to the villains actually makes it much more interesting. And one of them is Hannibal Lecter.
Yes. But
yes.
See, his whole death is just, you know, he has so much death in the character, though. His character is just full-on death. Like, you know, like, okay, this guy's a cannibal, but he's also really intelligent. So he not only can psychologically, like, get to you, but mentally as well. Look how he did Clarice. Everything he did to Clarice was just mental.
Yeah. He
just got into her head. And he gave off so much character because, again, he had dialogue, of course. Unlike, you know, Jason and Michael Myers. But he also was a human. He wasn't a serial killer with, like, superpowers, supernatural. He was a real person. And so that is terrifying itself. We can go into this so much. I could go into horror so much.
Anyways, let AJ get to what he wanted to talk about.
Okay, I will. Okay, so here's my biggest gripe of remakes.
Okay.
They cash in on anything that's nostalgic, that's good. But here's my biggest thing. Anything that's overseas. Okay? Anything that's overseas that gets a lot of attention, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is actually really
I know what you're getting into. Here we go.
And Tark knows. One of my favorite movies of all time is Old Boy.
I knew it.
Okay? Now, if Old Boy were to have been a standalone film, the American version, a standalone, no remake, no nothing, it would have been a good movie. Good. Would have been a decent film. I thought it was okay to the, you know, I'm like, okay, it wasn't bad. I'm not going to go poo-poo all over it. It's not, like, completely horrible. If someone were to see the American version before the Korean version, I wouldn't have a problem. I'm like, okay, I understand you've seen this version first, you know, and so I don't blame you for it. But my problem is the movie is timeless. That is one of those timeless movies. Like, if you watch it now, like the Korean version, if you watch it now, you won't see any flaws in it. Because I didn't find any flaw in it. And I watch movies to the point where I study a film if I'm engrossed in it. I studied Old Boy. I sat there and watched the movie. I can tell you I've seen Old Boy about 32 times.
That's 32. It? That's it?
32. Tark, 32. That's me watching it fully, not falling asleep through it. Now, if I wanted to get into it more. But the movie is I want to say one of those flawless films. There's plenty of flawless films in my opinion, and Old Boy is one of them. It gets into your mind, and then when you continuously watch and you see this man whose life has been taken away from him, what is he after he is actually set free from what he has been confined to? What is he gonna do? And you see him, he's trying to uncover the truth. How desperate is he to uncover the truth? That's what I think the American version did not capture. Because the Korean version, you could tell this guy was desperate. This guy wanted not only to become a human again, because he lost his humanity while he was locked up. They didn't show that in this version. He lost his morals, and they didn't show it in the American version. And then, I'm not going to spoil it, because if you haven't seen it, I recommend you guys watch. If you guys want to watch the American version, I go ahead, do it. It's not a bad film. The Korean version's 1,000 times better.
It is too.
Where am I getting at with this? They remade a movie that was so great because it had a lot of buzz. The Korean version is considered one of the best films. Period. It's got a great Metascore. A lot of people always say it's a really, really, really good film.
Yes.
And why did they remake it? Just because.
It was riding off of the success, and we can easily see that with something recent too. Like, excuse me, a few years ago, I don't know if any of you guys have read the book or seen any of the versions of the films, the girl with the dragon tattoo was also like super popular and super great and all that. And then it had a Swedish film and all that starring starring Noomi Rapace, very great actress, very great film. And then a few years later, an American version came out, just a few years after the original Swedish film, clearly riding off the success of the original film. Now, hold on a second. Before
I won't say that the remake was terrible. But it was okay.
But it wasn't. That's the thing. I was just about to say, it's not like Old Boy. It was actually good. I actually enjoyed it. Not as good as the Swedish film and not as good as the novel, but it was still like decent on its own, to the point where I can actually say you can watch either or and you can get like a similar experience, and it's great.
I can't say that about Old Boy. And I think anyone who's seen Old Boy can tell you can't. The American version, first of all, the villain's likable. in the Korean version, the villain's likable. He's a very likable character, and you're trying to understand why he's doing this to the protagonist.
Going on that point, they did the exact same thing to D12. Oh, hold on. Actually, no. Sorry, I don't think it was called D12 exactly. It's the American version is called The Block, or no, Brick Mansion. There we go. The American version is called Brick Mansion.
Here we go.
District 12. Yeah, it is
District 12.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So, they did the exact same thing where in the original version... The original version... Please stop. No. So, in the original version, there was a clear line between the protagonist and the antagonist, except the antagonist, there was two antagonists. For the course of the film, there's two antagonists, and you have to deal with both of them. You have to, deal with both of them while you have an anti-hero and a hero who were forced to work together. It was really good.
I liked Brick Mansion, so I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Brick Mansion was really good, except they humanized the villain. They humanized the villain. They changed him a lot, and because I guess they wanted to give it a happy ending. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But they humanized the villain. They changed it around, so now there's only one villain. Instead of two villains, yeah.
The RZA wasn't the villain, guys. Or was he? I didn't spoil it. That movie's on Netflix. You guys can watch it.
It's really good. There was another one where they tried to humanize the villain, and I was just like, I kind of liked it where they did it. This is good on it as its own thing, which I'm kind of glad they called it Brick Mansion. And they based it off that, and they have one of the same characters and stuff like that. But there's a lot of differences here and there. But I thought it was a really good job. I thought it was well done.
I like that question that Clever Cat just asked. Is there any foreign movie that has been made?
I was typing out a message to that. I was typing out a message, and I'm going to say
Ringu and Ju.
You stole it again. I was just about to say that. I was just about to say, hold on. It might not be what you're about to say, though, AJ. I was about to say, I like The Ring better than Ring, but I did not. But okay, I like The Ring better than Ringu, but I liked Ju-On better than The Grudge. You feel me?
Yeah.
I want to say The Grudge and Ju-On are par. I appreciated both of them. The Ring, I much more appreciated the American version.
Me too. Yes,
I like
because
the American version.
and I think the reason why The Ring worked was because it was more. It was more than just a horror film. It was actually a little bit of a drama going on, and it was a mystery film.
Yes.
When The Ring Good was just a flat out horror film and all that.
Yeah.
Because
So that's
the Ring was a pre-established lore, so they didn't give it any backstory. Because it was just like, we're just taking a story you already know and turning it into a movie. And now we're like basically making you relive that childhood fear. But for us, it's like, we don't know what the heck this is.
There's another movie that's on my head right now. And the Chinese version of the movie is called Infernal Affairs.
Oh boy.
You did not like the Departed.
I did like The Departed.
I like The Departed more than Infernal Affairs.
That's what. Yeah, of course.
That's
why I said, oh boy, because I honestly thought you were gonna say that was better.
No, I like The Departed more. I thought the Departed was much more intense in its story than Infernal Affair. So those are much better remakes than what they were in the foreign country. But Old Boy, complete letdown. I will say that the Korean version, if you guys want to see how good it is and you haven't seen it, the Korean version is on its own level.
I feel like, though, in general, with me, when it comes to films, it's like the Korean films, the rest of East Asia, then there's like European films, and there's the American films, and like, even with European films, you could break it down from there. Obviously, where like for me, it's I want to say English, the UK's version of films, I tend to like more than like the American versions or like French versions of films. But it's always like East Asian films, a lot of them, because of their sort of hidden depth and the way that their language is structured. There's a lot of depth in just the way they say things that makes it really, really good.
And Brandon just said French, so I'm going to my next movie.
Oh, here we go.
I like French films, but
You're gonna say Martyrs, aren't you?
Oh, you know me too well. That is the American version, and guys,
stay away. Stay away. That's it. It's as simple as that. Stay away.
The real horror is in watching the movies, guys.
Oh my god.
Well, I will say this: if you are very if you can't watch anything that's very violent or horror-esque, stay away from this movie in general. It's one of the more difficult movies to sit through.
Well, it is.
But the American version is no, poo-poo, 2 thumbs down.
That's also difficult to sit through, not because of the grotesque and violence that we see, but because of how bad it is. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, it was not good. It was not good. And here's another reason why, no. This is another foreign film. This is from France. And the original, highly how would you say, highly rated horror, of the last decade, this has been one of my favorite movies.
It is. Well, favorite films, but favorite horror films, yes, absolutely. Of the last decade, yes.
Horror films. That's what I said. Of the 2000s, it's really, really, really insane. But what makes it much more unique than any other film is its setting. And not only that, what happens after everything transpires. I won't get into details because I will spoil the movie. But everything after, let's say, the main incident that happens was removed.
That's lame.
Was removed. and they added something that totally made no sense, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, why? Why?
So, you know what that reminds me of? They did that with The Mist.
Oh yes.
Stephen King's The Mist. They did the same thing where they're just like, yeah, we're gonna remove the original ending and change it to this one, and the new ending was just it was messed up. It wasn't dark. It wasn't scary or anything. It was just really like just messed up. And it was just like a M. Night Shyamalan moment they had at the end of that movie.
I'm just throwing it out. These are movies. There's plenty more. Like, they're gonna remake The Raid.
Yes, they are. You're absolutely right.
For those who don't know what The Raid is, it's probably like one of the best martial arts films of this decade.
Okay, maybe we'll have another recap moment at the end of the year.
And they're remaking that, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, like, I fell in love with this movie. Why are you doing this? Yes. And The Raid 2, don't get me started on The Raid 2. The Raid 2 was amazing.
Great. Yeah. But I think the main issue that we are experiencing here when it comes to all these remakes, reimaginings, and whatnot, it's that they're just changing so much from what made the original one so special. They're just taking something that we're familiar with and just spicing it up a little bit more to make it where, one, we can interpret it as like it's not good, or two, it's just not good because they took something that made the original good and just doing something completely different. It's like taking a piece of work that was supposed to give us a political and social commentary and just getting rid of all that in favor of violence and action. But there was one remake.
Hold on. Let me. Can I go back to one thing? What made Oldboy also really good was that it tackled a lot of like taboos. The taboos it tackled. It tackled the
some of them were specifically East Asian and Korean taboos though. That's the thing.
No, it's actually all taboos, and not only that,
but some of them specifically applied to that
over there.
region. Yeah. Because here our culture's a little bit different.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And this is where I was going. The whole theme of honor and revenge is much more enhanced because it's coming from another country. The way they view those things is much more different than the way we view it. So when we watch these films like Martyrs or or Oldboy or just any other film from a different country, they have different views of certain things that sometimes we don't view it, but when we watch it in their perspective, it makes much more of an impact.
Yeah.
And so, when you're bringing a film from another country and you're trying to put it to Hollywood, most of the times it won't work because of the way we view them and the way they view it. Unless you put your own personal spin into it. Say, for example, Internal Affairs. It's a much different movie from The Departed. The Departed is a much different movie than Infernal Affairs. But it's still the same premise. It's still the same plot. It still has the same story into it. But it's just they put a different spin into it. And so
I thought of another good one too.
Yeah, no, there are plenty. Don't get me wrong. Like, for example,
Power Rangers.
I don't know if you guys. No.
Power Rangers. I like the new Power Rangers.
Me too.
It wasn't bad though. I was gonna say from a different country though.
Oh,
for example, have any of you guys seen Death at a Funeral?
Wait a minute, Power Rangers.
Death at a...
Hold on a second. No. Go back. Power Rangers. Power Rangers from Japan.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Super Sentai.
You're right.
Yes, you're right.
And it's very different too, by the way. The whole Sentai thing. The whole Sentai thing is like a subgenre in Japan.
It is the whole skin tight latex.
The whole team of 5 superheroes fighting for justice, using superpowers and martial arts. Yeah, that's a whole subgenre.
It is.
But once again, it does apply to this situation in more than one way. But we can continue now. Just
I was gonna say Death at a Funeral. Have you guys ever seen Death at a Funeral?
Yes, of course.
If you guys are thinking Martin Lawrence, oh yeah, Chris Rock, yeah, I remember that.
I didn't watch that version, actually.
Not that one. Are you kidding me?
I never watched that version.
But it's not as good as the English version.
Yeah.
Yes, I wasn't talking about the Chris Rock version. No, forget that.
I'm just saying it was remade.
Yes.
And that happened.
Like, there's gonna be a lot of people who think of that version.
I know, and I think it's because like when we take something of old, or not really of old, but of like a different country that uses different cultures and different standards of like comedy, and we implement it here and try to Americanize it, if you know what I mean, and all that other stuff. It kind of creates like an image when it comes to those who are not familiar with the foreign product or the foreign pieces of work. When we hear that title, we don't think of that foreign work. We think of what we saw here in America, if you know what I mean. But
like I explained, there are versions that do exceed the original content. There's plenty of movies. I named a couple. I've seen more. I know that
there is one I was about to bring up. Like we're talking about differences in all these remakes, and that's the reason why it's not as good as the original. But there is one film that I saw not too long ago that is actually a remake, reimagine, reboot, but it still stays true to the original, not only by content, but how they shot it as well. And I'm talking about the 2014's Gareth Evans Godzilla.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that one.
I'm not a huge fan of that movie though.
Even the original creator of Godzilla, he saw that film and he was like, "Yes, nice work." I
really enjoyed the newest one. Didn't like the 1999 one was absolutely horrible.
That was terrible.
Me as a kid, I didn't like it. I was like, I like the way Godzilla looks, but that's all I like about that version.
I didn't like the 2014 version. I will say that. I'm pretty sure people are gonna look at me like, "What? You didn't like it?"
No, I know plenty of people who don't like it, and like their reasoning was like, usually, it was like, "Oh, I like the original version better." I was like, "Which version are you talking about that you think is the original version?" Because I'm almost positive they're wrong, and usually they talk about, "Oh yeah, I saw one from like the year 2000." I'm like, that one was garbage. Rewatch it. Just rewatch it. You know, and double check. I would hope they'd be like, "Oh, I remember watching the animated series" or something like that. But no, not even that.
Gojira. That's the one I saw. Oh, Gojira! That's the one I saw. Okay, that's the original. Okay?
Those are good.
Godzilla, not Godzilla and Godzuki.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
I forgot about Godzuki. Oh man. Let's not talk about Godzuki.
No, but there are plenty of remakes that King Kong.
Original one was better, but the King Kong remake with the Peter Jackson one, it was pretty decent. It was decent.
It looks significantly better, and that's what I like about it. It's just aesthetically, it was visually better.
Yeah, that's why and there's plenty more. Like we could sit down and just talk about the remakes of this and that.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to talk about things I want to see remastered before we end this thing. So, Brandon, put up Power Stone, please.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You're right.
You could have mentioned Power Stone, and I would have just put it up.
Okay. So look, here's things that I want to see remade or remastered, and Power Stone's one of those games I want to see remastered, or just bring it back for
remastered again.
Because it was on the PSP, but that doesn't count.
Yeah, you're right. I think when it comes to something like what we want to see, I think we can talk more about video games coming back than films. Because when it comes to films, we're like, don't touch that. But when it comes to video games, we can be like, oh man, I wouldn't mind another Streets of Rage, like a legit Streets of Rage 4 or something like that. I wouldn't mind that at all.
They did.
The remake, yes, they did a remake, but that wasn't.
No.
What?
Fighting Force 64 was supposed to be Streets of Rage.
I know that, but I'm talking about a legit one, man.
Here's the thing. We have to be. We have to be really careful about what we ask for, because if we're not very careful, we'll end up with another GameCube version of Star Fox.
You're right. It took me a second.
So if we're not careful, we'll end up with another one where you play as Star Fox fighting with a staff.
Well, that one was good.
I hated that game. It was awful. And on top of that, when you find out the backstory of that game, you hate it even more.
Oh, I know. It was originally like the final game. Yes, you're right.
Different game, and they bought it, and they're just like, Star Fox.
Hold on. It's not Rare's fault. It was actually Nintendo and Shigeru Miyamoto. He actually saw the project. It was called Dinosaur Planet, and then he was like, I like, because he actually saw a lot of potential in Dinosaur Planet, and it did have a lot of potential. It looked so good.
It absolutely did. But the problem was I hated the way they redid the story too. It was pretty.
They added Star Fox, and it just completely ruined it.
Oh my god! They sexualized the heroine, and it was
they did.
Oh man, I can't. It hurts.
Who would think, man? Adding Star Fox into a game would completely ruin it.
Seriously though.
That's the thing. That was the shocker. But I did enjoy it for what it was. It wasn't a Star Fox game. No, it wasn't. No, but I still enjoyed it for what it was.
So, but that's the thing. Like, it would have. So here's the thing. For one, I feel like they put Star Fox in it, and they do this a lot. They put Star Fox in it because they know his name will sell the game.
It will sell, yeah.
The content of the game will keep the ratings up. So they knew the content would be great, but they knew it wouldn't sell because no one's never heard of this before. And they did the same thing with Power Rangers, where the story was very clearly, like, very much similar to the original Power Rangers, where it was supposed to be troubled teens, and they're supposed to be teenagers with attitudes. Teenagers with attitudes, and they're all basically put in a position where it's like, save the earth or die.
Yeah.
Which was really cool, but a lot of it actually could have done well. I feel like that, along with like the new Jumanji, along with a lot of series, they could have done well if they didn't pick the same name. If they just would have released as their own unique content, it would have been perfectly fine. But instead, they knew, like, this isn't going to sell well, and this isn't going to do as well because it doesn't have a name already. Mm-hmm. Let's give it this name, let's tweak the story, and let's release it this way. Yeah. And I feel like that's the route some of them have gone, or if not, they just, like, tried taking original stories and just basically tried smacking them with another story that was half written and did the same thing,
Like if the Super Mario Brothers movie was not called Super Mario Brothers, I would have respected it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Honestly. How about this one? No one talks about this one. Mario Bros 2. It wasn't supposed to be.
Oh, Mario. You mean the Lost Levels? You mean the Lost Levels is what it is now?
No.
Oh, you mean the legit Mario 2, where you pick up the vegetables and you throw it at people, right?
That wasn't supposed to be a Mario game.
You're right. It was something completely different. You're right. You're absolutely right. I totally forgot about that.
They did the same thing with that as they did with Star Fox. That's why.
The fun fact, though, that's one of my favorite Mario games.
Oh, man. That's okay. I enjoyed it, mainly because I like playing as other characters other than the Mario Man, so it's all good.
I loved it because it was just really challenging. I was like, this is fun.
You know what game they have to continue is the Princess Peach games.
Oh, yeah. That game was a lot of fun.
Luigi,
that was so much fun.
Luigi Mansion Remastered.
Well, they had a 2. And
they had it too, and there's an arcade game. There's an arcade game of Luigi Mansion.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna be doing more. I think they're just waiting for something.
They're waiting for
They're waiting for the right product to release it to, because you can't just release a new game. You have to find the right product, so they need
especially now with Mario Odyssey coming out. I don't think they're gonna release another Luigi's Mansion around.
I think they're waiting for an AR-based device before they do another one like that. In other words, where you can physically see the ghost in front of you and so on. But that would be the best way to do it. And Nintendo, they are all about doing the weirdest, craziest things where you're like, this looks like a gimmick, and they roll with it for 3 years or 4 years, and you're just like, you know what? is a gimmick, but I love this gimmick. Like the 3DS, well, not the 3D of the 3DS, but the camera on the 3DS, where they did AR on the 3DS, and they're making it better now. So like the 3DS they did that with, the Switch, the Wii they did that with, like a lot of consoles, they're just like, this looks like such a weird gimmick. The GameCube was supposed to be like a half modular system where you could have all these add-ons up for it, and a lot of those add-ons were really cool. They just never carried it out.
Well, you know, there's a lot of things that just fall flat.
Yeah.
And GameCube was. How about this question for each and every one of you guys? What game would you like to see get remastered?
I already told you, Streets of Rage.
How about what content? Because not just games. What about like a book or a movie or something that you want to see remastered?
Yeah.
Or
all right, fair enough. Yeah. All right.
All right. So, Tark, are you still gonna stick with Streets of Rage, or you want to think about it?
I think I am, because when it comes to films, I'm like, let's just say, for example, back to what we were talking about when it comes to Metropolis. Like, I would love to see one, but at the same time, it would be very risky and all that, and very, very hard to not judge it based on like having the original Metropolis in mind. So when it comes to remaking films, I am very judgmental on that, and I have a little bit of like a stressful side on that. But when it comes to remaking video games, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll play it, whatever. Like Streets of Rage, like totally, I would stick with that. Yeah, Streets of Rage. Like if you were to also reboot or remake or reimagine, let's say, I know they did it already, but Castlevania, the very first one, they already did that, and it was great. It sold, and it was actually really fun. And so, yeah, I would just stick with Streets of Rage, because remaking a video game, personally to me, it doesn't really have that stress spot. It does have that stress spot because, you know, like we have expectation and we have like all these wants that we like, that we desire, but at the same time, if it's bad, it's not going to be, personally for me, as hurtful, because I can always just revert back to the original. Yeah, but yeah.
What about you, Gus?
Hmm.
Would you like to see remade or done or something like that?
Give me a second. Someone else.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So let me think.
Me?
You want to talk about yours? Go ahead. Talk about yours.
I already said Power Stone.
Oh well. Aside from Power Stone, what else would you like?
I would like to see Power Stone get remade. That'd be cool.
Right.
And another one. Let me see. How about since a lot of the Resident Evil games are getting remastered, how about Dino Crisis?
And make it in first person, just like in RE7, and do VR, and like you can just turn the corner and a raptor will be at your face. Oh man.
Oh my god.
Oh, that'll be great. Exactly. That reaction that you had, Goth, that's gonna be everyone's reaction when it happens.
You know what it needs to be? It needs to be on the Vive. It totally needs to be on the Vive, so you could just like peek around a corner, and just when something comes at you, you just wave your arms around and freak out, and nothing's happening. You freak out, you throw yourself on the floor, try to protect yourself. Nothing's happening. You know, it's
See, I came up with a good idea. Dino Crisis.
Yeah, you did.
Dino Crisis VR.
Dino Crisis.
VR. First person Dino Crisis VR.
First person Dino Crisis VR. This is.
Let me answer for Goth. Harvest Moon.
I was thinking of that actually the whole time.
Oh, hello.
I'm like, okay, you see, if no one else knows this, Harvest Moon has made a wide series of Harvest Moon games, and I mean a wide.
They had one not that long ago
like,
too, but it was
yes,
like
yes,
an okay-ish one.
They're all just, they're not even like part 2. There's no continuations. Everything is its own story. There's some things that they should have had in Harvest Moon N64 version that needed to either be extended or needed to add more depth into, because there was a story. It's just, and you know what, also, playing it again recently myself, I realized how horrible the controls were. Because some of the controls were like, okay, if you would have just done this instead of this, that would have been way more simple. And so yeah, that's what I was thinking about the whole time, like, what would I want remastered? honestly, it would probably be that, because there's certain areas of the game that should have been improved and weren't, but there was also really easy fixes for certain things that they put in there, like controls wise. Like I said, they could have changed a lot of things that they didn't, but yeah, I think it was mainly that. Maybe I see, the thing is, I like the graphics. So I'm not sure I'd want the graphics necessarily to be like remodified, or because they do have other Harvest Moon games, and those are graphically beautiful, and they're different, and they're like, there's a lot of them. They're 3D and everything. It's just for Harvest Moon N64, since there's so much nostalgia in that one, I feel like there wouldn't be huge fixes, but some slight things, which I would be happy if they remastered.
I think Harvest Moon is one of those games that is going to be hard because it was an N64 game, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, it was an N64.
The controls are wonky. Just throwing that out.
Yeah.
So, guys, that was this episode.
Wait a minute, Brandon didn't say his.
Oh yeah, that's right, AJ. You interrupted me.
Oh, that's right. Go ahead.
So the one series that I want to see them do a remake for the animated and for the video game. One, they kind of did a video game. They did a reimagining, and that was absolutely horrible. It was horrible. I feel like it was horrible for one particular reason, but it was bad for other reasons too. But and then the reimagining of the animated series is already happening as of next year, so that's kind of hard. But it's Megaman. They're coming out with a new animated series next year.
Really?
Coming out with a new animated series.
This is actually news for me right now. Oh shoot, I had no idea.
And it's basically like, it's kind of like Astro Boy. He's a 10-year-old boy, and then on the side he's also a superhero. Like
are you for real?
His secret life is a superhero. Yeah. So
I did not know
Megaman,
this.
New Mega Man animated series coming out next year. And then for the video game, they did Mighty Number 9, which it looks like it looks like a lot of plastic action figures running around trying to reenact Mega Man games, and I didn't appreciate it. It had a lot of potential, and then they completely changed the animation style. They completely changed a lot of mechanics from their initial betas and their initial videos, and it just wasn't what it was supposed to be, and it really, really made me upset. I would want them to do something new for Mega Man, but there's only so much they can do before they run out of ideas. Like, what kind of new content could they really put into it? For now, they're sticking to anniversary collections where they add all the original games and remaster them, like fix them and stuff like that, and put them into collection copies where, like, for $20 you get 10 Mega Man.
A legacy collection, yeah.
Like, legacy for the amount you pay for that collection of games, you get a lot. It's really insane.
That's a lot.
Those games are really tough, and they took a long time to beat. And then you get a bunch of them into one collection, and every 10 years they're just like, I think it's every 5 years, but every 5 to 10 years they put out a huge collection of them where they're like, here's everything from, this decade, enjoy, that type of thing, or here's everything from this particular console, enjoy.
They did 1 through 6, and now they're gonna do 7 through 10, if I'm correct.
That's coming out. Yeah, that's coming out soon. But yeah, I would like for them to do either that or Mega Man X again. I would like for them to
Mega Man X,
especially Mega Man X. I would
love especially for them to do Mega Man X,
a new Mega Man X game or something along those lines. Outside of that, I'm trying to think what would be good. I would love for them to do a remastered Left 4 Dead 2. That'd be dope.
Not happening.
What would you have changed?
I wouldn't ask for a 3, because I know that's not happening. But a remastered version of 2 would probably be the next best thing, and I would absolutely love for something like that.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
What would you like to have changed for that, though?
Just basically just have all this
on a new engine. Like, even if it's the new Unreal Engine, for example. If they put it on a new engine, it would run a lot smoother. There wouldn't be crashes. It wouldn't be 80% of our bugs would be gone because they're on a new engine. They can update the graphics and have like really, really nice looking graphics and really nice animation. So you know how you kind of like bop everything instead of that, like, let's say you go to break the smoker's tongue, instead there could be a whole animation just for, like, snapping the tongue or something like that, because Unreal lets you do that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
And they can do a bunch of really, really cool stuff for different characters. So now they can have, like, better ragdoll physics, cooler death animations. Let's say you melee a particular enemy to death, it does, like, a whole animation and stuff like that. You could have a bunch of cool stuff.
And above all else, a graphical upgrade, and it would just be much more. It would just look better.
It would look better. It would run smoother. It would load faster. God knows it would load faster.
I think the technical stuff is really the only thing I would really.
You would have to remaster all of Valve's freaking games, though. I'm just throwing that out.
I'm just saying, like, even if they pick one of them, I would say pick the one that has multiplayer, because not only now you're not selling just one copy at that point, you're potentially selling 4. Yeah, unlike every other game they have where it's single player games or like story driven single player games, you're selling one copy to one person or one copy to like a couple people. Now for these multiplayer games, you're just like, how many of us have said, oh, I hate the bots, you know, like everybody said they hate the freaking bots, they'd rather play with people. So now you want to convince your friends to get it so they can sell 4 packs or 2 packs, etc., and you can have a full party of people in there.
Yeah.
That's what makes that game great, is being able to play with people. That's why you want to do a game like that, especially now where online multiplayer is a huge deal, to the point where every game has to have it, otherwise it's selling like half as much as everything else.
Yeah.
That's true. I get you.
Like Left 4 Dead 2 would be a great game.
Yeah, so if those things were changed, yeah, I'd be up for it. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright, so are we done?
That was it, yeah.
Yep.
That was remasters and remakes. We spoke a lot. Damn it. But now
we ran on a lot longer than we normally do.
For the time you guys have not been waiting for. My anime of the week.
Oh man, I was like, he's gonna forget about it. He's gonna forget about it.
I never forget about it. And let's just say I'll bring up an anime that I watched and I actually thoroughly enjoyed. You can find it on Netflix. It's an exclusive on Netflix. So if you guys are trying to watch that, you have to have a Netflix account. Castlevania.
Oh, hello. All right. Now this one, I give my stamp of approval. Yes, this one actually has my stamp of approval.
And not only that, it's based off of one of the games, a little loosely, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Netflix is actually doing some good job with the animes.
They're on a roll.
They really are.
Ajin was really good.
Ajin was good, yes, I do agree. But Castlevania was very, very good. If Tark said he gives it his stamp of approval, that's a sign, guys. That's a sign. The stars are aligning. They're shining down bright upon us. It's a sign, guys. You should watch it. It's really good. I enjoyed it. It's only 4 episodes, so it's not a long watch.
Yeah, and they're not long episodes either. I was expecting it to be like an OVA where they're an hour long each or something like that, or 45 minutes. No, they're like half an hour long episodes.
Yeah. So you can binge it all in like a few hours and you're good.
Binge it all in 2 hours and you're done.
Yeah, so I highly recommend that. And before we leave, guys, is there anything to be said?
Basically, yeah, remakes and remasters, they're going to be a part of us for a long time in like every aspect of the art, and it's something that we all just have to like take it for what it is and hopefully give hope that this will inspire like either good remakes or remasters or new innovative stuff that will inspire people to rise up and show us, you know, brand new things that could also lead into being remakes and remasters decades later. Who knows?
And the fact is, until the dead horse has gotten every penny beaten out of him, you will keep seeing these, by the way. Not every dollar, every penny. They will keep going. Until they start losing money, they will keep going. Even then, they might keep going because rom-coms are still a thing, too. So they'll keep going.
I just want to point out, this is very disappointing, how very little imagination the world has. You would think we can come up with original content.
No, there's plenty of original content out there. The fact is, no one wants to back it because it's a gamble. There's no surefire
that is true. That is
proof
true.
that your movie will do well. You know what's easy to prove? I take this movie that has already been successful, and I will push it back into everyone's face in 4K.
Yes.
They love it because they loved it back then. They sure as hell love it now. It's like,
I'm telling you, I can make like 10 horror movies, and I'm pretty sure all of them would suck, but they would be creative.
I mean, there's plenty of unique content out there as far as horror films, stuff like that. Honestly, I usually just look to Korean films.
Yeah, I do too.
Like,
I'm not gonna lie.
What was the one we were just talking about not that long ago? It was Train to
Busan.
Thank you. Train to Busan. So we were just talking about that one not too long ago. I watched it. Freaking love that one. And
it was great.
It was like nothing I've seen before. So
it was so cool. That's on Netflix if you guys want to watch that.
It's on the American Netflix. I don't know about anywhere overseas. So
yeah, well, if you're English, you're kind of screwed. I'm sorry.
Wow,
if you're not in the U.S., we apologize. Our description of what is on Netflix is not accurate.
Point is, remakes are always going to exist, so either deal with them or don't watch them at all.
or just buy my product. You know,
sometimes you're gonna like the remakes. Sometimes you're gonna like the originals. It's just kind of how life works.
I'm going to be making films, and they're going to be nominated for the Razzies, and I'm going to win every category.
Everything you can possibly think of.
I'm going to win every category. Worst actor, me. Worst actress, me. Worst supporting actor, me. Worst. I'm going to do a Tommy Wiseau.
Futurama made an episode similar to that. At the worst, it's the best. No, it was the guy with the bag. The guy with the paper bag on his head. He had the best leading actor, best leading actress, best background role. Like everything you could think of, they just came up with awards just to give to him. He was the greatest actor in the world, and no one's ever seen his face.
That's gonna be me. That's gonna be me.
He wore a paper bag for every role. It was great.
And guys, that's the episode.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys so much. And tune in not next Saturday, but the Saturday after the next for the next discussion topic. As next Saturday is going to be another game night. What's it going to be? We will announce it in our Discord and all that. So, but we hope to see you guys and join you guys once again for next Saturday, because it's always a pleasure interacting with you.
I just want to throw out also, Tommy Wiseau is making a new movie.
Yeah, we know. It's called Best Friends.
Oh my gosh, I saw that trailer. I was like, oh, I want to watch
You're a little late. You're a little late on that. I knew about this a month or so ago, man. You're a little late.
All right, guys.
All right, once again, thank you guys so much for sticking by and joining us. I am Tark201.
I'm the Lucid. I was letting you go this time. Alright, I'm Bushido X Wolf, since Lucid wants to sit there and smile.
I just want to see why. I want to know why she's laughing.
Because of earlier's goof.
Like earlier, I went to go talk and she started talking too at the same time. So this time I let her talk.
No, I wasn't ready for it this time. Anyways, I am GothAngie1129.
Yay!
I am Bajo Zutsu. If you can't pronounce my name, it's okay.
And thank you. And once again, thank you guys so much. And until next time, have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Meow.